So what I'll say is, apart from the hand washing, the sanitizing, not touching your face, the remote working, and social isolation, what about the running of the business itself? What are the things that go through your mind? What are the new normals in this situation that are going to be thrown off? What used to be an exception will now be a norm, and vice versa. What do you have in place for situations like this? What do you do when the most critical thing that we have at the moment, which is the physical movement and the physical interaction? What happens when that is not possible any longer? And how robust are your plans and your financials to get through that? I'm going to try and share the slide that I've got, and it's to put this in perspective, and I hope you appreciate what I'm doing rather than trying to make fun of the situation. And I hope that what you can see in front of you is a screen that says, you know, what crisis are we really dealing with? Could I just get somebody to confirm if that is what you can see on your screens? Because I cannot see what you are seeing.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what you should see is there should be a slide that says there is a crisis. Can you video?
Yeah, that's what we see.
Thank you. Basically, we've always operated in a crisis in Nigeria, if you think about it. I mean, a crisis is nothing but a decisive but unstable situation. It might be human, it might be caused by nature, but really, it's not new. Now it's COVID-19, but think about it. Before COVID-19, we had Lassa fever. 3 years ago, we had Ebola. And on a daily basis, especially in Nigeria, we have the Boko Haram crisis, militancy, pipeline, vandalization. It goes on forever. Kidnapping, border closure, flooding, cybercrime. Every one of these things is a crisis. And if you actually take a step back and think about it, you've always operated in the middle of that crisis. You've just had to adjust, amend, scale up, drill down to get through that crisis. Because if you think about it, the lack of power is a crisis. It's a crisis if you need power at a critical time and you don't have it. What you then need to do is to walk through that crisis. And that's what we're going to be doing today, hopefully, to a large extent. Same with Lassa fever. For those who believe that COVID-19 is the mother of all crises, it might be. But don't forget that for those of you who are traders or those of you who are engaging in physical contact, because of Boko Haram, I'm sure that maybe about 1/5 of Nigeria is a no-go area because of Boko Haram. The same way that many people will say that they're not traveling to the Niger Delta area because of militancy. The same way that many people are going to say they're not going to some parts of maybe Osun, or Ondo, or even Lagos State because of either kidnapping or because of herdsmen's invasion or intervention. So all these are crises that we've always dealt with. This is just a different kind of crisis because possibly apart from when we have maybe physical or civil unrest or things like that, we would actually have a situation where we cannot move. And I think that is the critical thing that we're having at the moment, that we cannot necessarily move around. That is the main thing about this crisis. The main thing that we have to deal with now is the limited physical liberty. Surprisingly, a lot of people will tend to say, oh, it's finance. But I say, well, think about it. This is affecting everybody. So it's not a matter of Bambo can sort out the finance, but Adenike can't. Everybody is going to have to deal with this in their own way. So the bigger issue is actually the limited physical liberty. Because if you could get to the bank, you could sort out the finance. If you could get to your customer, you could sort out deliveries. If you could get to your supplier, you can sort out, the raw supplies. You can do it by internet, you can do it remotely, but physically, you still need to have your goods delivered. You still need to go and deliver your services. And there's only so much that you can do using the internet. So it now takes us to the next stage, which is very much, what is your plan to get past this? Many organizations will call it a business continuity plan. And what is a business continuity plan? I'll come to that in a moment, but I just want to ensure that we are clear in our minds what we are dealing with here so that we don't get overly stressed about something that's affecting everybody. It's not just you, it's not just me. Now, in order to do this, I need to navigate this, through a crisis. There's one thing that we need to do. We need to act. ACT. That's my acronym, by the way. It wasn't from Google. Admit that there is a crisis, because denial could be fatal. Admit it. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't think it's going to go away because you're, hoping or praying. Prayers are good, but you need to back it up with action. You need to confront it, and that's the C part of the act. First one is to admit that there's a crisis. The second one is to confront it. Don't be afraid, but at the same time, don't be a fool. And then the third thing is to take control. And taking control is part of this plan and these strategies that we're going to be talking about, or that I'm going to be talking about, and hopefully you are going to get involved. This is a business continuity plan, a set of procedures needed to ensure that regular business continues during a crisis. It will require careful and determined analysis. I'm sure you can read it yourselves. But the key things are these. Your plan should give you the opportunity to do things. So it's a be able kind of plan. It's a plan that will allow you to be able to identify your resources, land, labor, capital, enterprise. You should be able to deploy those resources. Your business continuity plan, or I'll just call it BCP, should enable you to identify your key staff in your organization. Those are going to be your to-go-to people. And I have what Rudyard Kipling called the 6 wise men. Who's going to do it? When are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? When they need to do it? Where they need to do it? And possibly why they need to do it. Once you have those 6, I think you can start ticking the boxes of how to develop this plan. And then the third thing about the business continuity plan is to be able to convince your suppliers on the one hand that their payments are going to be made or are in the pipeline, and your customers that you're still operating, and once this blows over, it's going to be service. I won't say as usual, but I'll say service. So for those of you who are delivering goods, I'm sure that you are already trying to deploy how to get the goods to your customers, possibly not in these 14 days, if you're in Lagos or Ogun or the Federal Capital Territory, maybe in the other states. If you're delivering a service and you can do it by digital technology, fantastic. Just as important is to ensure that you are constantly communicating. There is nothing like over communication. People want to know what's going on. The suppliers, the customers, your staff, everybody needs to know. This is where you get to be the Oga that everybody is calling you. Like I said, don't be afraid, but don't be a fool. Ensure that you tell them what's going on or what is not going on. Ask for opinions. Some might work, some might not, but don't discard it out of hand. You need to then stabilize your business. And just as I was talking to some of my colleagues this morning, if you are on a recharge card meter, for instance, it's a good time to either charge up the meter, or if you believe that you can do it online, ensure that it works online so that you don't get cut off by NEPA, which I believe have just been done, but you still have the backup. This is not the time to turn on the generator just because you are hot and you need the AC on. Because unless your generator is solar, you are eventually going to use up the petrol or the diesel, and then you now need to go and get somebody to supply the diesel. And we don't have clarity about the supply of diesel or petrol at the moment. We do have confirmation that petroleum is going to be supplied to the stations, but there's no word about how you're going to get to the station to actually buy it, or whether they're going to allow the petrol trucks to deliver the diesel. Cash is going to be king at this point in time. I apologize, I'm going to need to wipe my face. Cash is going to be king. Don't spend cash unless you need to. Now, that's quite different from don't pay your customers because you can avoid paying and they can't come around to knock on your door or to shake your factory gates. But do not spend money that you either do not have or money that you might need in future. Remember that your revenue will get out of control at some stage. and I'm sure for some of you it already has. Stocking up on vitamin C, buying bread and buying gari, all for the house is one thing. Taking out additional insurance for the business because you're physically not going to be there might be another thing that you're going to have to spend money on. Or get somebody to physically be in the factory because you are not going to be there. I was introduced as being a successful, I believe, businessman was the word that was used. I'm not sure about the businessman, but I do have a snail farm, for instance. So in my mind, I'm saying the snails are in Djibouti and in Lagos. They need to be fed and they need to be safe. So my finance is deployed to ensuring that there can be water for them, food to eat, security so that nobody steals them, and that the staff who are taken care of are happy to take care of them. And I'll expect you to do the same thing for your various businesses. And once you're doing that, also think of those areas where at this point you can actually slow down on the spending. Your marketing costs. At the moment, I will probably venture a guess and say there's no need for huge marketing at the moment. Maybe to keep the name going, maybe to keep the awareness, but not of the stage of come and buy my product, because nobody can buy products for the next 14 days, apart from those who are selling essential products, food, pharmaceutical items, medical equipment, maybe petroleum. For those of you who are in that business, then I do agree you need to keep the advertising going, the marketing going. For the others, this might be a time to consider cutting back on those expenses. The same for logistics. If you can't go anywhere and you can't make any delivery, then there's no point in running your motorcycle or your vehicle just for the sake of running it. I mean, that's almost a no-brainer. For those of you who are in the business of logistics, make sure that your logistics guys can actually go around. The one thing you don't want is to identify an opportunity to supply because you're in logistics and people can't leave their houses, and then get caught in the regulation that says don't move around, which don't you understand? Communication is key at the moment, so data, Wi-Fi, internet factors are key. And I've also mentioned about salaries. So kindly remember those. Now that's one half of it. The other half is you and the business. I've talked about how to keep the operations going. In terms of the business itself, that strategy that you developed, most likely when you were with Faith Foundation, this might be a time to look that strategy or to rethink it and the business plan and maybe make some amendments, because I'm sure many businesses have been affected. I hope not too adversely. For some of you, this might actually be a good time for your business, but you will still need to rethink your strategy and your business plan. Tone down the optimism just a bit. I'm not saying to go into, bare territory, but I'm saying just tone it down. Be more conservative, be more realistic. Optimism is good, but realism is probably what you need more than anything at this point in time. Then calculate a number of scenarios. What ifs? What if it's more than 14 days? What do I do? What if I have made some things that I cannot deliver? What do I need to do? What if what I'm making is perishable? And after a while, the generator is going to run out of fuel. How do I conserve? How do I preserve? What if the government then decides to, I hope it doesn't get to that stage, commandeer our vehicle because they need them for emergency services? What if I've got a large compound and the local government says, oh, we need your compound because we need to use it as a distribution point? These are the times to think of those what if scenarios. I'm not saying you should get paranoid. This is not the time for paranoia. This is a time for running through the scenario. What if? Ask questions. And in order to do those things, you also need to be open-minded. These are the times to tap into things like the Faith Foundation Network, your alumni association, your trade bodies, the Chamber of Commerce, the various bodies that are offering advice at this time. And a lot of that advice is free. This is the time to reach out to your colleagues, your friends, your co-partners, even your competitors. Mr. Bambo, how do you do X, Y, Z? You'll be amazed what people will say to you. This is the time when a lot of people are going to unconsciously pull themselves together. And when you're doing that, also think of the interventions. The government has mentioned, the deferment of repayment of some financial loans. I'm sure there are going to be interventions for some businesses. Check to make sure that your business is or is not one of them. If it's not, see whether there are other types of interventions. If it is, make sure that you're on the list to receive those interventions. And this is a fantastic time to start thinking of things like insurance. Do you have insurance for lost income? I know we're not necessarily a big country when it comes to insuring things, but this is the time to maybe think about it. If I had insurance for loss of revenue, for loss of income, I might sleep a bit easier. If you don't have it, then consider it as one of those things that you want to think about deploying after this blows over. And I share the kind of things that we tend to do in our own office. We have a business continuity plan, and usually it would consist of two things: a black book and a diagram. The diagram is to identify who are the members of staff that are key contacts. What are their names? What are their addresses? What are their email addresses? Who are their next of kin, so that you can get hold of them, you can get hold of the next of kin. One, to ensure that you can check on them and see that Mr. Bambo is okay because he didn't respond to a call, he didn't sign up into the WhatsApp conference call this morning, or it's now 3 days, he hasn't called in. Have a knowledge of who the next of kin is. Know and make sure it's documented, the staff responsibilities. So it's not a matter of somebody should have done it, anybody could have done it, nobody did it. And now we are all going to pay the price for it. Have a list of your assets and liabilities, because when you do go back to your factory, when you go back into the office after the 14 days, you want to make sure that everything is intact. And if it is not intact, get the replacement and then find out who took what. I'm not necessarily saying that people are going to steal things. I'm just saying that there are going to be things that you need to check to make sure that they're up to date. Your internet, for instance, is not going to be stolen. It's out there in the cloud. But you need to know whether you need to now run security protocol, or whether you need to update the software. Same thing with your factory. You need to check whether the sewing machine or whether it's the generator needs immediate servicing because it's been closed or put aside for upwards of 10, 12, 14 days. Make sure your suppliers and the customers have been informed of this situation. They should know. But just in case, want the delivery guy to say, that order for so and so day, put it on hold, or your delivery to them, call and say that it's not going to be done because of the following reasons. In my office, we have a file that everybody has a copy of, and it has a list of all the things that I just mentioned: everybody's name, everybody's address, everybody's phone number, the next of kin. There, I think we've got maybe, something like maybe the blood type in case of an emergency, you need to take a transfusion, heaven forbid. But you, as the orga, as the business owner, should also have what I would call a black book. So many of us, the black book is the phone. We've got all the phone numbers on our phone. If you're not a phone person, then have a little black book. But let's just say there's a black book. In your black book, you should have the phone numbers of your suppliers, your customers, the staff that I just mentioned. You should have phone numbers of the emergency services. I know many of us will say, well, it's 767. But it also helps to have the phone number of a particular contact, not just a central number. Your local government chairman, the commissioner that is in charge of enterprise, and you'll be amazed. I make calls to quite a number of individuals because of the nature of my work, and also because of what I get involved in with the Chamber of Commerce. And people actually do pick up the phone. I've complained about the toll gates, I've complained about gutters being full, about fallen trees, and I do get a response. So this is probably a time for you to test the same government that you're saying either not performing, or if you've got an idea, give them the idea. In your black book, let it have things like the number of the hospital, or at least a doctor, the number of your solicitor, because a number of legal issues are going to come up as a result of this. And then the regulatory agencies, NCDC, I think it's NCDC, the Ministry of Environment, and possibly your trade association. And one final thing, and then I'll then say, let's just now talk openly. is that with all these things, don't forget that it is affecting everybody. As Michael Jackson said, you are not alone. People are there to help you through. Faith Foundation has done a brilliant job to set this up. And this is now the opportunity for you to either share your ideas with people like me, because I don't really know a lot about your business. I'm making a lot of assumptions, but it's also a time to share these ideas. And on that note, I'm going to keep quiet so I can take a sip of my vitamin C loaded water and ask if there are any comments or any questions, and then we can take it from there. So thank you very much for your time, and God bless you all.